Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day today, and in this episode, you're gonna hear some super entitled stories. So as always, sit back, relax, and get ready to shake your heads, because some people do love to do whatever the heck they want, because they think they're special, and more deserving than others. Guys, let's dive in, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future stories. So this happened 2 years ago, when I went with a group of friends to a very posh restaurant in town for a birthday celebration for a friend who uses a wheelchair. The restaurant itself had only recently been awarded its first Michelin star, and reservations had to be made months in advance. For us, this was the most posh restaurant around. There was a dress code, prefix multi-course menu, local celebrities and regular attendance, the works. And we were very excited to be there for our friend's birthday. The birthday boy was turning 70 years old and lives with MS, so he uses a powered chair. He also has a fancy van with a little robotic mechanism that picks up his chair and him with it. So for him, leaving the house at all is a very painful ordeal, but this place was worth it. The dining room was all seated roughly at the same time, and dinner's many courses were certainly worthy of a Michelin star or more. A true feast. So as we began to leave and got out the front door, we could all see that the restaurant's small parking lot was quite full. And in the no parking zone / loading ramp of the disabled spot that my friend's van was parked in, was a brand new, souped up hot rod, parked literally inches from the van's sliding door, so there was no way that he could get in. So I decided to march back inside the restaurant, past the maitre d', and yelled at the top of my lungs to the assembled restaurant. I said, "Who parked illegally in a disabled loading zone?" Everybody looked up, but nobody moved. And I yelled again, saying, "Who parked blocking a disabled ramp? Someone in a wheelchair is now blocked from getting in. The police are on their way to tow your car." Everyone began exchanging murmurs and glances, and finally, a young-looking guy got up from a table where a beautifully dressed woman sat, his mortified date. He ran out with his keys, but said loudly enough for people to hear, "They told me it was okay. I can't just park my car in any spot." My friend's wheelchair had by now also motored to the front door, and his quiet voice spoke up loudly enough for everybody to hear, "It's never okay. You were very wrong." So the guy moved his car and meekly squeaked a half-hearted apology. But it was clear to everybody. Any goodwill with his date had evaporated, as it had with everybody else at the restaurant. Now, we didn't actually end up calling the cops, but we got a nice justice boner from watching this entitled idiot be humiliated so soundly. My friends, I absolutely hate when people park like that. Every once in a while, I'll see a person do something like this, but they have no idea that when they do that, this might happen. And I love this person's comment right here. This person says, "People can be so stupid when it comes to handicap spots. When I was in college, a guy came running in late to a meeting we were at. He apologized for being late, but he also said that he got lucky finding a parking spot nearby. I told him I was super surprised since I had to park really far away as there were no spots. He then said, 'Oh, there were plenty of empty handicap spots.' Now, we all just stared at him and told him that he needed to go and move his car. He looked at his watch and said, 'But it's 8 p.m. After we asked him to explain, he said, "I thought you could park here after 6 p.m. We asked him if he thought disabled people were miraculously cured at 6 o'clock every night. He moved his car at least. Oh, some people. The more you know, hey." So, my dad is the only member of my family with whom I have a close relationship with, as he's the only one who accepts my choice to remain child-free and focus on my career and travel. As for my stepmom, my stepbrother, uncles, aunts, cousins, all of them have given me hell for my lifestyle. Now, I'm in my mid-30s now, and ever since I had entered in my late 20s, they began badgering me to get married, preferably to a man my father chooses for me. I'm Indian, so you can imagine how this goes. I got the usual BS conversations, such as, "Who will take care of you when you're old? You're selfish for only thinking about yourself. You need to marry and breed, because that's what women do." So around 4 years ago, I finally got sick and tired of them and decided to ignore their calls and texts. I've only maintained low contact with my stepbrother because he's not quite as horrible as the others. I was never close with these people to begin with, so it wasn't difficult. For a while, they took to harassing my dad to get him to get his daughter in line, but he shut him down by saying that this was my life and my decisions. At the time when this incident took place, a certain crisis had arisen in my extended family, one that directly affected my dad. Now, I don't wish to go into the details, but I had to interact with these people again. So my stepmom's sister, her husband, their teenage son, along with their grown son, his wife, and their toddler, came to our city to discuss matters. My dad and I decided that we could all chat at my house since it's close to the airport. So all of these folks, along with my dad, stepmom, stepbrother, and sister-in-law, and their baby, come gather at my place. We all ate dinner and talked about the issue at length. However, it was quite an ordeal for me as I had to constantly tell off the toddler as she kept trying to grab my cats and dogs or make loud noises at them. I asked her parents to intervene, but they just laughed it off. My pets are very well behaved, but just not used to being around kids, especially if they're annoying little brats whose parents refuse to discipline them. So as soon as the discussion was over, stepmom's sister asked which of the bedrooms was for them. Now, I was caught a bit off guard and asked her what she meant. Her husband chimed in and asked, or rather demanded, that I get 2 bedrooms ready for their family, as they will be spending the night here. Oh, and breakfast had better be served before 8 o'clock in the morning, as we don't want to miss our flight. He said this with the matter-of-factness of a seasoned parasite. This was my breaking point. Not once had I indicated that they would be staying at my place. I just offered to host them for dinner once. That's it. Even my dad was shocked. I told them very bluntly that I'm not particularly fond of their family and don't feel comfortable letting them spend the night. Also, how the heck did they get this ridiculous idea anyway? Now, my stepmom flared up. She no longer speaks to me directly, so she began asking my dad why his daughter could not put up with family members in her home for one night. How can she be so selfish? I told everybody in a firm voice that we've discussed what we were supposed to discuss and it was time for them to leave. Stepmom and her sister walked out grumbling and everybody else followed. The toddler's mom asked if her kid could pet my dogs and I just said no with a straight face, which seemed to piss her off. The baby was still bawling like a champ, so nobody was able to say anything else. I have never wanted these people in my home to begin with, so letting them spend the night was obviously out of the question. If they had asked beforehand and asked politely, then I might have considered it. But I refuse to be a doormat for people who can't keep their entitlement in check. You know what? That's the thing with family though. We're family, so we expect you to cater to us. How dare you make us stay in a hotel when we can stay with you for free? Guys, I have been there, I've done that, I know exactly what that's like. And I'm sure many of you can relate too. Props to OP for standing her ground though. I know with certain cultures, it's super disrespectful to have your family members from out of town stay at a hotel and not offer up your home. So, my family has lived in the same home for about 24 years now. My entire life, we've had the same neighbors on both sides of us. So, one side is the sweetest elderly lady who bakes us cookies every Christmas. And on the other side is a family whose parents seem to think that the world revolves around their own wonderful selves. Now, this family moved in about 2 or 3 years before us, giving them the idea that their opinions trump the lives of any of their neighbors. I know this because both parents and their kids have explicitly told me this. Now, there was a giant tree in my parents' backyard that admittedly has become a little bit overgrown. A branch or two has reached over the fence leading into our neighbor's yard. In the fall, the tree sheds its leaves, as trees do, and maybe 1% of the leaves will make their way into the neighbor's yard. This tree has been a part of my childhood and 3 of my siblings' childhoods. Needless to say, my family is quite attached to our tree. Well, about 15 years ago, our neighbors decided to build a pool. Now, we've had issues with them over time, so when they started to gripe about the leaves from the tree falling into their pool, we just brushed it off. So fast forward to about 2 years ago. I had just finished up the college semester and had come back to visit my parents for the week. I was at home relaxing and enjoying my time off when the dogs started barking, so I went to check it out. While looking out the window, I saw a team of tree trimmers begin to unload and set up in our backyard. It wouldn't be the first time my parents didn't mention having work done on the house, so I didn't think anything of it. I called my dad to see if the trimmers would need anything from me while they were here, but he was working, so I just left a message. He got back to me about 30 minutes later, completely confused, so we knew something wasn't right. At that point, I went out back and told them that they can take a break because there's been a mistake. Luckily, they had only managed to take 2 or 3 major branches off the tree, so there was still a chance the tree would survive. It was the quickest I've ever seen my dad do the drive home. I went out back with him so we could figure out what the heck was up. After a very loud discussion and a lawsuit threat later, the trimmers decided that it was best they didn't finish the job of taking down all of the branches. Well, it turns out our entitled neighbor decided to take it upon herself to hire a company to come and take down the tree in our yard. Yep, they were about to cut down our tree, and they were just starting with cutting down the big branches first. When she told the company that it was her neighbor's yard, they only asked if she got it cleared with us. They didn't make any efforts to make sure it was cool with us. To make the situation even sweeter, the crew working on the tree wouldn't stop the job until the owner of the company came to the site and cleared up the situation. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I found out that I was doing unauthorized work and trespassing on someone's property, I'd take that as my cue to leave. When my parents demanded an explanation, the only thing our neighbor would say was that since the couple of branches were reaching over the fence, she had the right to get the tree taken down. The whole tree. So that's when the police got involved. She was informed that she was allowed to have the branches trimmed past the fence, something my parents said they could have done if the neighbor paid for it. But due to the significant branches trimmed off on our property, she would be looking at destruction of property and a massive fine if the tree died. Luckily, the tree stands to this day, and the wind seems to blow just a bit harder towards their side each fall. So yeah, leave it up to a freaking Karen to call the crappiest tree cutting company ever. I can't believe that all it took was an, "Oh, my neighbor's completely fine with them cutting down the tree. Go ahead, do the job." Now, I'm pretty sure they won't be in business for long if they keep doing that stuff. Was anybody else hoping that the tree would die so that the horrible neighbor would have paid some tree tax? I mean, that's a horrible thing because it's a beautiful tree and it doesn't deserve to die, but you guys know what I'm trying to say, right? Okay, so a bit of context. Due to a brain injury a few years back, my father's motor skills have not been the greatest. He can't operate machinery and his memory is awful. He can usually walk around fine, if wobbly on most days, but when he's having a bad day, he needs the help of a cane or a walker. Even then, he can be pretty prone to falling over. No biggie and no ambulance is needed as long as he doesn't hit his head, and he can easily get back up with help. So he's with me and we're on a grocery run. I'm carting our stuff back to the car and he's hobbling alongside me with his cane. It's a bit of an off day for him. I begin unloading our stuff into the car when my dad takes a bit of a tumble. As I go over to help my dad stand, I nearly jump out of my skin as this nearby woman with kids sees us and practically screams. I kinda shoot her a "what the heck lady" look while I'm helping him up, but this woman is just scowling at me and whispering into her phone. I get my dad into the car so he can sit and catch his breath. While I finish putting up my groceries, I heard someone call out to me. I turn around to see a police officer. Guys, do you want to know what this Karen's reaction to seeing a 50-year-old man with a cane falling over was? Apparently, other than screaming, it was to call the cops and report him for public drunkenness. Now, I did not even know that was a thing until it was explained to me. But apparently in my state, it's a Class C misdemeanor, and you can get fined up to $500. A few questions and a breathalyzer test later cleared my dad's name and we got to go home without incident. And I never did find out what happened to that nutcase of a woman. Guys, what in the world did I just read? Does this woman report anybody who takes a tumble in public for being too intoxicated or what? She seems like she was pretty quick to call the police. She didn't even make an effort to run over to see if the man was okay. Nope, he fell. He's gotta be drunk. Officer, arrest this man. What kind of ass backwards thinking do you have to see an old man tumble and think, oh my goodness, he's a public drunk? So I'm in the casino business. This of course means that major holidays are just another day for us, and requests off are limited for holidays, if even allowed at all. For some background, I am 35, single, and I have no kids. I've been passed over on schedule rebids for weekends off because, quote, it's easier for you since you don't have any kids. This of course gives me the midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays as my days off every week. I'm scheduled to work Friday to Monday. Since I have no family, I usually trade Thanksgiving and Christmas if they fall during the week, so other dealers with families can spend time with their kids. this year, I elected not to. My best friend is gonna randomly be in my city for this week. This of course means that since I'm off Tuesday through Thursday, I'll be able to go out for some drinks Wednesday night with Ryan, and I have an invite to Turkey Day for the first time since I moved to the city. So, one of my coworkers, let's call her Karen, has been working for this place way less time than me. She beat me out of another schedule rebid because she has 3 kids, and quote, having weekends off to spend time with them is so important. Anyway, Karen didn't so much as ask as made a comment to me on schedule day. She says, "So I let the boss know that you're working Thursday for me." I told her, "Sorry, I can't trade anybody this year. I actually have plans." Karen scoffs and says, "Well, it's not like you have any family. You need to do the right thing and let those of us with loved ones spend the holiday with them." I told her, "Well, I'm sure you get to spend a lot of time with them every weekend while I'm here dealing cards." She just grumbled and walked away. Later in the break room, about 5 of us, including Karen, were eating lunch. We were talking about the holiday and everybody's plans. Karen makes a snide remark about how I refuse to trade her shifts. She says, "All he's gonna do is get drunk and watch football. He won't even let me have the holiday off with my family." I told her, "Yup, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Remember, you told the boss that you needed weekends off for family time, so really, I'm doing you a favor by working normal days, so you can have all weekend off with your kids. You're welcome." I put on the best smile I could and just looked at her. She was visibly displeased, but said nothing else. My coworkers told me that she whined to them about what an ass I was after I left. Oh well. Oh well is right. The entitlement was so strong with this Karen, thinking that OP has absolutely nothing going on in his life because he doesn't have kids. Oh, you're just gonna get drunk and watch football. Yeah, but I'm gonna do that with my best friend Karen, who I haven't seen in a very long time. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /Entitled People. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me again today and listening to stories. If you missed the last episode, I will link it right here. A Karen says that OP is not disabled enough to park in a handicapped spot. Oof. It's crazy. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.